And with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce Bob Bowers, a friend and partner of Claris, CEO of Soliant Consulting, to lead this discussion, Business Built on Claris, CxO Perspectives. Bob, I pass the virtual mic to you.
Janine, thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Business Built on Claris, our panel discussion. Again, my name is Bob Bowers. I'm the CEO and the founding partner of Soliant Consulting, and I'm speaking with you today from my home in central North Carolina. I've been a FileMaker developer for over 25 years, and this is my 24th annual FileMaker conference. I went to every FileMaker DevCon except the very first one. With me today are David Winton from Kalisher, John Kieffer from Kieffer's Appliances, Mark Lowery from Lowery Property Advisors, and David Moore from Woodland Foods. The overall theme I'd like to explore with them today is how businesses leverage the Claris platform as a strategic differentiator to compete more effectively and drive growth and profitability. These four entrepreneurs have all built what I consider to be very successful businesses, and FileMaker's played a big role in that. They've staked their businesses, their organizations on the future of the Claris platform also. I don't think any of them has been to DevCon or a Claris event before. Mark Lowery, I think you were once maybe, but these are people that haven't typically come to DevCon before. They're also all they've also all been clients of ours for years, so I've had an opportunity to witness their ups and downs, and I've enjoyed discussing business philosophy and strategy with them. So the idea for today's session grew out of those discussions, and I'm looking forward to having them share some of their experiences with us today. I'm hoping that it's a mix of ideas, approaches, mindsets, and experiences that we don't normally hear at a Claris conference. Okay, with that, I'd like to ask each of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves and tell us a bit about your business and how you use the Claris platform. So David Winton, let me ask you to begin.
Sure, thanks, Bob. It's a pleasure to join you. Thanks again for putting this panel together. It's just fun to get to have a conversation with you anytime, much less in front of an audience. So my name is David Winton, and I am the Chief Strategy Officer of Kalisher. We are a commercial art company serving primarily commercial interiors worldwide. We've been in business now for just around 20 years. We employ about 150 people between North Carolina and Georgia. We have manufacturing in-house. We develop custom art with a suite of artists in-house. And we work with the hospitality industry, the senior living industry, the healthcare industry, and other commercial industries to provide meaningful story-based artwork for their interiors. And FileMaker was a serendipitous venture for us when Bob Bowers happened to move to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and we were looking for a developer to help us build a software platform to consolidate us being spread out across Google Docs, Excel, Word, email, the normal suite of basic Office applications. And we use FileMaker now really as the entire backbone of our business. I'm excited to get into more about the specifics about how it's become a powerful tool for us, but ever since that first investment, it's been a critical part of the company.
Thanks, David. John Kieffer, you're up next.
Oh, John, you're on mute.
And Kieffer's Appliance is a 104-year-old company. So we basically started with file cards. The company has grown to 70 employees. We are, when I first got involved with FileMaker, we had 4 different systems operating within the company, and we thought we did it pretty well. FileMaker seemed to be our most stable platform, and we chose them and Soliant to integrate it for us. Over the years, we now have one system, which is the entire company is run on it. Everything is interrelated. There's no challenge that we can't meet via our software. So we have seen tremendous economics gains for our company during this time. And we have nothing but great things to say about it. So we'll be talking about it.
Thanks, John. Mark Lowery.
Thanks for having me. For really excited to be participating in this, and looking forward to some new ideas that'll probably come from this. So my name is Mark Lowery. I own and operate Lowery Property Advisors. We're a commercial real estate appraisal firm headquartered in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We cover the entire southwest part of the country with 4 offices all over Texas and about 30 employees. We've been using FileMaker since 2014. And we're at the point where I really can't imagine us doing our business without it, and just really enjoy continuing to make investments in our platform that operates on FileMaker, Claris, and look forward to continued future growth driven by that.
Thanks, Mark. David Moore.
Hi, my name is David Moore, and have a company called Woodland Foods. We started using FileMaker in the late 80s to replace my Rolodex. We're about 325 employees. And we have about 1,600 products imported from about 60 countries. I've got some FileMaker specs in our system. It's about 80 gigabytes, 160 simultaneous users, about 137 files, over 700 tables, 20,000 fields, more than 4,000 layouts, and more than 9,500 scripts. We started, I met Bob when the company was doing about 2 million. We should cross about 100 million in sales coming up here pretty soon. And that was right before he married my sister. So it's been a very interesting ride. FileMaker has been a tremendous tool. And Bob was instrumental in going from getting us onto FileMaker 3.0. So we're located in just outside Chicago, Illinois, and have enjoyed FileMaker for a long time in the food business.
Thanks. And yeah, so full disclosure, David is my brother-in-law too. So thanks for bringing that up. Well, so today I've got 5 or 6 themes that I'd like to touch on in today's session. And the first one is database as strategic asset. And I think you'd all consider your FileMaker systems to be strategic assets. They're a key ingredient in the secret sauce that's been part of your success. So David Winton, I'd like to start with you on this one. Tell us a little bit about how you use and frankly value your system as an asset of the business.
Sure, Bob. I remember us having this conversation probably a few years back now, when we were going through an investment round, and it became kind of critical actually for us to put it on, to list it as an asset, which, as in an earlier discussion, that's not always the desirable case depending on how you want to approach tax season. But for us, it became a critical component as we sought to compare it to other ways to build a database. The easiest example that we actually used in our evaluation was comparing it to an Oracle product. And it was kind of staggering when we actually put dollars and cents to paper about how the investment about having our own FileMaker system in-house we've been developing over the years, and having our own in-house FileMaker guru has been so incredibly cost savings for us, and ended up as a pretty valuable asset literally on the balance sheet for us. It's to the point now where we don't use FileMaker or Claris just as a database or as a piece of software. We've actually branded it. We call it CxO because it's such an integral part of our business that we wanted to kind of give it its own identity. So that's a little bit of the tip of the iceberg about how we've actually started to think about it, not just in terms of a process for the business, but an asset for the business.
Well, and do you guys still give a tour of the database as part of a tour of the building when you've got clients coming over?
Sure. One of the unique things about the way that we've approached our industry, which is commercial art, we still are many of us artists at heart. I have a fine art degree. My parents are still shocked and somewhat amazed that I have health insurance. From that background, a lot of people approach our art company thinking that they're going to walk into kind of a crazy, haphazardly run arts organization. But we really think about ourselves, as I'm sure the fellow panelists do, as in the business of information more than anything else. And it is something that we like to show off. We take people on a tour of FileMaker and show them how we use it to move information around not just in an efficient way, but I always point out too, we've really tried to make it a beautiful product. We take as much care with the interface as we do in terms of building out the functionality of the database, because we believe that it should be something that people enjoy using. And with Bob's guidance, that's been something that's been actually pretty easy for us to do.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and I think both the idea of putting the database on the balance sheet and having that as part of the tour that you give potential customers is a really interesting idea. Mark Lowery, let me turn to you. So how do you guys consider your database a strategic asset, or how does it differentiate you from your competitors?
So being in the commercial real estate appraisal and analysis business, we're really in the data business. And that's what we do is we analyze. And so FileMaker has been a very user-friendly tool that we're able to put in place. And we operate in a white space kind of between old-fashioned find and replace in a document, and between that and true automation. And that gives us the ability to kind of leverage both sides of that. And so that definitely gives us a competitive advantage. And then its ability to geocode all of that data is just imperative.
Great. David, how about you? David Moore.
Okay. Well, it's always set us apart. It's allowed us to do things that that other companies couldn't do. We're a vertically integrated company, and Mike Lagergren, our system architect for FileMaker, which we call Enterprise Companion, has built a complete ERP system. Handles purchasing, receiving, production, all the forecasting, and managing, tens of thousands of SKUs and thousands of customers. And it's we could not function with it, and there are not systems that are really built that are so flexible as to either, well, if you pick a canned program, you're pretty much stuck with distribution or discrete manufacturing. And FileMaker's allowed us to be both, and that was not an option with the other systems. So we're able to operate and do something other people don't do, and that niche has allowed us to grow.
Thanks. John, how about you? In what ways does FileMaker in your systems, does it differentiate you from what your competitors do or give you an advantage?
Well, we started out and we viewed FileMaker as our accounting system, and really we were using it like normal software off the box. But then after talking to guys like you, we realized that our whole company should be integrated into one system. We created a CRM. That CRM has paid unbelievable dividends to our company. Every piece of data is interrelated. And we now look at our business meetings where we say, hey, we have a management problem. Here are the challenges for next year. And the first thing we do is, how can FileMaker help wrestle this problem to the ground? How do they solve it? And invariably, 80% of the solution to every problem revolves around how we manipulate our data. And it is very successfully.
But that's sort of a good segue into the second topic I've got, and I'll probably come back to you in a second for this. Second topic is I'd like to talk a little bit about your decision making. So there's no shortage of things that you can spend time and money on. You've got lots of competing priorities. So what's your process for deciding about what projects to move forward with? Which ones don't you move forward with? How do you do ROI analysis? Are you just going from your gut or your judgment, or does it come out of some broader strategy discussions? So just tell us a little bit about your decision-making process as it relates to your database. And John, let me keep with you on this and tell us how you guys approach that.
Well, we really do take a look at not anything we do. Software has to conform to how we do it. And that's what FileMaker has done for us. They've enabled us not to make business decisions because the software can't do what we want it to do.
Right. But
And
so there's all sorts of stuff that it can do. So how do you decide which you're going to pursue? Which projects are priorities?
that's just your regular management decisions. You know, what channel do you want to grow?
Okay.
And we implement the software to crunch the data, and it can do it quickly. It's not it's an overnight.
Is it should you have a committee that decides, or is it you, or is it part of a strategy meeting, or what's the process?
A strategy meeting, 5 people. We start hashing it out. Your consultant, Dean, is invited to the meeting when we get to the final phases. And then all of a sudden, we're enlightened as to what software can do for us. How much of that job can be done via the system that we already own, we're already invested in, and all we have to do is tweak it. So the return on investment is huge because there's little being put in it.
Now, Mark, how about you? What's your process for deciding how and when to move forward with various initiatives for the database?
Well, like I said before, we've got 30 employees, and for now, I'm the only equity shareholder in our organization. So for lack of a better term, the buck stops here. And so really, ultimately, the final decision's on me. And so to a big extent, it's gut instinct. And a lot of times I like to envision what I think the final product is going to look like. And if it seems fun, it's probably worth spending some money on. So instinct and fun. We also do biannual management offsite, like weekend retreats. And quite frequently, we'll spend a good chunk of time discussing FileMaker, and we give that to our entire management team and see what the next level is going to be for us.
Is your system always evolving, or do you guys does it move in sort of chunks, or is it a constant work in progress?
No, that's a great question. I think we go in seasons. I think 3 to 6 months may go by where we don't make any major changes, and then we'll come up with some new technology idea, and it'll be the next wave of things. And so for us, there's definitely seasons, but it's still also a constantly evolving investment.
Nice. David Winton, how about you? What's your process these days for deciding which projects get a green light and which ones you put on hold?
I echo some of the comments you made, Bob, and what Mark said also, and John said, that because there are no limitations and it can happen so quickly, we don't ever feel inhibited by the tools that we're using, especially FileMaker, to hold us back from the decisions we need to make. So we get together and do quarterly strategy sessions, and it's really just about prioritizing what's the most important for us. Since we can do everything, we actually have fallen into the trap before of trying to do everything at once. So it's just a matter of being careful about what we select over the next typically 3 months in terms of the decision-making process. I will say we're just now coming up on a big rework, which has been going over the past 9 months, and probably got another 3 months to go. So from time to time, we have kind of pulled back and taken a very bird's eye perspective on how we're using our software. But for the most part, we treat it on those kind of quarterly sprints, and the sky's the limit in terms of the projects we're going to take on. I mean, for instance, I think John said they built a CRM. I think we built a CRM in a month and just imported everything from Salesforce, and it was just immediately powerful for us.
Very nice. So did you just have like a big long list of things on a whiteboard, things that you're going to get to eventually?
Yeah, we call it a parking lot.
Okay.
Bright ideas that'll somehow eventually trickle down to reality for us.
Okay, good. David Moore, how about you? So you must have a process for how decisions get made.
Yeah, we use Jira, and we have subject matter experts throughout the company that are able to look over people's shoulders and see processes that could be improved upon, and they generate requests that go into a queue. And then our development team I think we have 7 people. One of them is more of a triage person. they'll kind of let these things bubble up, and then with the help of your organization, we can come up with best practices and things that are related to the experience that somebody who's outside of our company has. The decisions get rather incestuous inside. We don't really know what the limitations are and what the latest version of FileMaker can do. So there's a bit of there's a queue, and then there's a screening technique, and then that's when we involve Soliant to kind of come up with that best practice, best approach. Yeah. But there's quite a bit of work. We're employing your developers and our team at the same time, and it's been working quite well. But to the point everybody's made, it can do anything. So what do you want it to do? But it's very, very fluid. It's a monthly discussion, and it's part of the senior leadership meeting where that resource is used and how we use it.
I've heard you say before that you look for things to say no to, or that you're in a place right now where you're trying to not say yes to all these requests. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. 20,000 fields, 4,388 layouts. After more than 30 years of using FileMaker, we have technical debt, and with our employees so familiar with its power, everybody asks for something they want. And that ends up kind of splitting the mission into micro missions, and people kind of getting off point. So there's a great deal of focus that needs to be put onto FileMaker projects. Because of its flexibility, it can really lead to problems. So you need to kind of keep everybody on the same track. We have some reports that 4 different departments will use, and it's the same report. They could all have different reports, but we've learned to have the discipline to have more of a common language. So fighting the flexibility is actually something that, and dealing with the technical debt that we have in FileMaker is something that you're currently helping us with that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that technical debt that accrues in a system over time, I think that's happens to a lot of mature FileMaker systems, and having the discipline to go back and address that is something that's important as you look for opportunities to move forward as well. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the next theme is going to be about creating the environment for success. So I want to hear a little bit about sort of tools and teams. I'm curious what you've learned about working both with internal and external teams over the years, how to structure them, to work with them for maximal success. Any tips for getting user adoption when rolling out new versions or buy-in or anything like this? So just on the topic of tools and teams and working efficiently with people. And Mark, let me start with you on that one. So any thoughts on how to get the most out of tools and teams?
Sure, thanks. So we launched our preliminary software of FileMaker in 2014. About a year before that, I had heard that one of our competitors had spent 7 figures on a new piece of software, launched it, and then realized within 90 days that their team wasn't adopting it. And so the reality with a new database, if it doesn't add value for your employees in a relatively short period of time, they're not as likely to adopt it. So when we launched ours, we created a bonus program, and we paid everybody $10 for every project that they entered in prior to the official launch. And then once we had the official launch, it already had data in there that we knew was going to add value for each of our employees from day one.
Mark, I love that story because it does a couple of things all at once. I mean, so you were, if my recollection's right, you were facing kind of a difficult data migration from what you were in before. It wasn't going to be an easy or it was going to cost a lot of money for us to figure out a way to do that in an automated way. And so you simultaneously took care of a data migration issue and testing issue too, because it was a great way to exercise the system and get people using it for a lot of things. And then also driving user adoption at the same time and getting, putting some cash and extra cash in people's pockets by having a little bonus program for people to just enter in records in their spare time, as it were.
Yeah, it went really well for us. I think as a business leader, you have to always be thinking about the way it's going to make your staff feel. and how's it gonna make them impact their workflow. And if you can't speed them up, they're not likely to adopt it swiftly.
Good. Let's see, John, how about you? In terms of any thoughts about efficiently working with teams or tools or anything like that?
I think the real key and that I enjoy is the fact that our company, when we get together in small teams and bigger teams and things like that, understand the value of FileMaker. And what I mean is the flexibility. We have never heard the word no. We can't do that. And that really, they see it as a partner. There's certain tasks that our group really can't stand, okay? And by taking them and having FileMaker do them or show them a cleaner, quicker way to do it, it has really had huge benefits. The CRM is, we hit a threshold where a salesperson could only manage X number of business. We implemented the CRM and that number almost doubled in 18 months. And the sales of the company grew, but each of the salespeople, they knew that it was coming from the economy of scale that they got by implementing what we did in the system. So kudos.
Thanks. Yeah. Hey, David Moore, how about you? So you've got an in-house team, a pretty big in-house team, and you've obviously worked with external people over the years. So what some lessons learned or thoughts on working effectively with development teams?
Well, I think John has made a good point. We have the understanding throughout the company that FileMaker's power is it's very, very powerful. We have team time meetings on a daily basis. Different teams meet on different days. And we have managers meetings and senior leadership meetings. And, FileMaker is on everybody's agenda. These things filter through the SMEs as far as the teamwork works. As far as tools go, the Claris Connect stuff and this kind of a digital world that we're living in is has really been a fantastic piece because, whether it's our 3PL or whether it's one of our import brokers, to be able to, connect through APIs to these different groups, the EDI systems that our large customers use to order, the integration with UPS, FedEx, USPS. These types of tools are just, it's amazing, and it's becoming more and more a part of our future to digitally connect to people, and FileMaker has stepped up, so we're really pleased about that.
Hey, you mentioned a minute ago about your SMEs. So if I remember correctly, you've got a couple people in each department that are sort of liaisons to the development team. Is that how things are structured? Talk about that for a sec.
Yeah, we have one gentleman in our development team who handles kind of, I'll call it the triage. All the requests that come in before their JIRA requests, and some of them are JIRAs, and he still filters them out. So the SMEs meet with him and they talk about things. And it's basically concentrated learning so that everybody's not learning at once. I mean, you understand, I guess you're not asking me the concept of an SME. But in our company, it works very well because they're the go-to person. They're the train-the-trainer person. They bring the feedback back, and the continual improvement is kind of run through them. Is that your question?
It is. I like that. And I think it's something that other people might find interesting, just in an organization your size, how to efficiently distribute knowledge about a system, or as you're saying, training or feedback, or who do you go to in that department when there's a question or when you need that subject matter expert. So you all have designated a couple people within each department to sort of fill that role.
Correct.
Okay, I like that. That's a good tip. David Winton, how about you? What do you guys think about tools and teams working effectively with development teams?
Well, the thing that popped in my mind that I don't think I'd shared with you previously was a new initiative we took on specifically related to, call it engagement with the software platform, but also just making it align better with who we were as a company. We had candidly our first ever development of core values last year. And they ended up actually not just being window dressing, but really, really meaningful to the company. So we took a look at our tools and actually decided whether or not they aligned with our core values. And one of the big ones was transparent and trusting, which is one of our values. And that has informed our software development now. What that meant in practice was removing some useless permission locks around some layouts so that people could just get to the data they needed faster and work across departments more fluidly. You know, we put some locks in place just because of different tiers or positions in the company that weren't really adding any value to the software. The other thing that came to mind was during any type of development, similar to what David was talking about, we do take in feedback and input. We kind of structure it so that we get input and feedback from the most junior employees all the way to the most senior employees, just so they get a chance to contribute and feel like their voice was heard, you know, when we're creating new layouts or creating new fields in the software.
Thanks. Yeah, I've got a question here from the audience that's going to dovetail into the next section well. The next thing I'd like to talk about is some general lessons learned over the years or advice. And the question is as CEO of a fast-growing company, I've been told countless times that if we want to truly scale, we will eventually need to move off of FileMaker Pro. Are you afraid one day that FileMaker Pro will no longer be able to handle all of your business needs? David Moore, that's kind of queued up for you here, I think. How would you respond to that one?
Well, I won't mention the name of the company, but I will tell you that it was 3 years in the development. We felt the same way. You know, one of the bigger companies in the world. I think it was 3.5 years and about $8 million. We went live in March and threw it in the trash can in June. The problem with the big ERP systems is you really need to spend years changing the way you do your business to fit the way the ERP system wants to do it. We were getting orders on a Monday and shipping them on a Friday. With the new system, they were giving us ship dates 4 months out. It was an absolutely devastating experience. And really, I think all the panelists have made the point that, you know, FileMaker can do what you want it to do. You have to do what the big ERP systems do. And if you're not doing that, there's a report that I can ask our department to do, or a step that takes a couple of hours of work or even a week of work, you know, will cost $25,000 in 3 months of effort. It was just an absolutely brutal experience. So I don't know how fast growing you are or how big you are, but I have all the confidence in the world. And I've mentioned the size of our company from a database standpoint, that we could be 3 times this size, and before we'd ever begin to question, much less, you know, hit any limits.
Thanks. It's a question I get a lot from growing businesses, whether or not they're going to outgrow FileMaker at some point and need to move on to something else. So having seen from the sidelines your experience trying to go through that process and your decision to try to move off of FileMaker and then moving back to it, it's been an interesting experience, and I appreciate you sharing that with everyone here today. John Kieffer, so general lessons learned, if you had to give your younger self or somebody just coming up in the business some advice about business and databases, any thoughts on that?
I really think that anyone that's considering a change in software really is having a discussion of how they organize their customers, and it should be all about what's right for their customers, what's right for their employees, and then bring FileMaker or software to the table. I spent years modifying the way we did business because I had bad software. The software can't adapt, therefore you have to. And I think that that's what these big platforms basically say. This is the way we do business. Can't change it, and if you want to change it, get the checkbook ready. It's not the case with FileMaker.
Yep, and I think that ability for you all to be able to set up your systems the way you look at the world and the way you want to do business has been huge. That you don't have to adapt your mindset into how some other software works. You're able to develop exactly how you want to go to market. It can reflect your priorities and your procedures.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mark, what about you? What kind of lessons learned do you have, or what advice would you give to people generally?
My advice would be if you're about to launch some software, or if you already have FileMaker software and you're about to take on a major project that may include multiple vendors all working in concert, my advice would be over communicate, over communicate, over communicate. If you think you need to have 6 meetings, you probably need to have 10. And testing, because if it affects a lot of people, you want to make sure you get to the finish line without any surprises. So those vendor relationships are really important, and the detailed meetings, as many of them as you can have, are important too.
That's great advice, and I know, as one of those vendors, we appreciate being brought to those meetings just so we can get a sense of all the things that are going on with the project and see how our part fits with it all. It's much easier than trying to guess or then have to go back and adapt things later on. So excellent advice. David Winton, how about you?
Excuse me, I would just say the biggest lesson learned, I talked about how we do quarterly strategy sessions now. That's relatively new for us. We focused too early on as a small company about how do we make it do this thing we're doing, not what are we trying to accomplish. I think that's a little bit because I was naive about the capabilities. We never considered that it could genuinely be everything. I mean, it's on our iPads on the manufacturing floor. So it can literally do anything. That's nice to know. So in that case, instead of thinking about what are the actions we want it to do, what are we trying to do as a company, and then apply that to the software. So I echo what Mark said. You can't have enough meetings with your partners or internally to actually put pen to paper, not just about the activities you want your software to do, but what the strategy is you're trying to implement. That's the biggest lesson for us.
Thanks. Hey, we've got about 5 minutes left. So in the remaining couple of minutes, I'd like to talk about the future. So tell me some things that you might be excited about for the next couple of years, and how do you expect FileMaker is going to help you get there, or other Claris products too? So especially with so much uncertainty in the world right now, how do you plan to use your database to continue your success? Let's see. John, let me start with you for this one again.
I guess the real exciting thing going forward is that the platform we have built with FileMaker is scaled that we can grow economically and very rapidly based on the needs of the market. And we don't know what's going to happen with the election and things like that, but wow, it's getting ready to take off the economy, at least in the building that we see. And we know we're scaled to do it. And we know that we have a partner in our software to do whatever we need to do to get there.
John, I hope you're right about all of that. Thank you. David Winton, so what's the future hold for databases at Kalisher? Any interesting projects or initiatives?
Well, I think we're looking right now to our current environment and the ways that we, like a lot of businesses, have had to pivot in one way or the other, or take on challenges that we never even dreamed of. So what we're trying to do is just be a little bit more nimble and be okay with trying a few new things out while we kind of pursue new customer bases. In terms of how that affects our software development, it makes us rethink assumptions we had around things like costing, supply chain, and if we want to go back and do new types of negotiation or create new supply chains, how can we let our software make that easier for us? I think the most aspirational thing I'll say is that we're looking to do is actually, we've been really, you asked me earlier about how we demo it to our customers and our clients because we're so proud of it. What's a way that we can now show up and literally make it part of our marketing and advertising about how much better we are than our competitors because of the work and effort we've put into this amazing, it's not going to work for me to stand on a pedestal and say our software is great, but there's a way for me to still show up and say, as a company, look what this does for you and how it makes your lives easier to work with us. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at towards the future.
I love that. Thanks. Mark, what's the future hold for Lowery Partners?
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball to know for sure. When someone asks me what I'm excited about in the future, for right now, the first thing that comes to my mind is I can't wait to go to an actual football game in person, which has nothing to do with FileMaker, but I'm just saying I'm ready to get out in the world. A little off topic there, but for our software, right now, our platform, our documents are programmatically disconnected from FileMaker, and that's by design, and it gives us a little more flexibility and the ability to customize our documents some. And I can see us taking it down the path where FileMaker produces our actual documents and they become a whole lot more automated and streamlined. And if we could accomplish that, that would give us an even bigger competitive advantage than we already have.
Like that. It seems like it's achievable too. David Moore, let me give you the last word. You've got about 30 seconds or a minute. Any thoughts on the future?
Yeah, I would say for us, it's all about connectivity and data analysis. More and more we need to, I mentioned this earlier, we need to connect. A couple of examples would be that we have freight charges totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in categories that didn't exist 5 years ago. And by breaking these things out in FileMaker and being able to connect to our customers and our freight companies, we're able to recoup these charges. Working on our process of capable to promise, we're constantly needing more data to make that understanding happen. And that's really data analysis and connectivity.
Well, thanks. I see we've got the slide back from Janine here. So let me say to end then that I'd just like to thank you all for joining us today, for your time, and to the community for joining us today also. Janine, let me send things back to you.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks everybody for joining us. That was an awesome discussion. I know I learned some stuff, and I'm sure the feedback we're getting from the community already is really positive. So thank you all so much for your contributions. I want to remind everybody, please join us for the next session coming up in about 15 minutes, looking ahead to emerging technology. You don't want to miss it. And another shameless plug, if you will, please, if you haven't registered or are planning to attend, please attend our closing session. It is a quick, fun, upbeat recognition of the awesome contributions of our community. We really encourage you to attend that session. And I also want to remind everybody that Engage doesn't end after today. The on-demand sessions will be published to the Academy. The recordings of all of these great sessions from today and yesterday will be published to the Academy, as well as the keynotes. So please, thank you to all of our community members for your awesome contributions there. And please join us for the closing and then continuing on with Claris Engage on Demand in Claris Academy. That ends it for this session. We'll see you all again very soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Thanks.